Okay, that's good. That's good. Probably about a third of you. And if you've read it, you found that it does add a lot. I know when we were first doing our bicycle plan for the city of Akron, it would have been very helpful to have this. We had the original guide, which is fairly basic, but not a lot of guidance on how to apply. This actually goes quite a few steps further in giving ideas, suggestions of what needs to go where. Heather referred to the particular table in the planning section. And as well as there's a section in the design part about retrofitting, which probably accounts for about 80 to 90% of a lot of the work that we have. To go over in the short amount of time, the entire manual would be too much. There's actually a very nice webinar series that is being put on right now, and it's available online. I'll give you the reference for that. That goes over section by section the AASHTO manual. But I went through and tried to decide, boy, what gets me excited about the new manual?
Don't say it's so deadpan.
All right. Well, here's some things you need to know. The AASHTO guide is done in conjunction with other design guides. It should go with the Green Book. It's meant to work as a detail addendum to the Green Book. The Ohio MUTCD takes precedence over whatever's in the AASHTO guide, of course. The L&D manual, as mentioned, is incorporating it, its policy. The design guide did try to incorporate the accessibility guidelines that are currently out there for the right-of-ways and for trail use. Out there is also the NACTO guide, which it's related to. You could say that the AASHTO is the conservative. This is what we should be doing as designers. The NACTO is sort of the whiz-bang, here's what is out there, what people are trying and experimenting with. This thing figured out. This felt real at home when I was reading it. Operating design characteristics. There's a lot more detail on that. Cyclist dimensions. Also, you can find vehicle dimensions from tandems to recumbents and use of trailers. Another section that I found very valuable and instructive for engineers was discussion of causes of crashes. I don't believe this was in the original manual, but I think in terms of safety, understanding, what are the typical types of crashes, how often do they occur. What we do know is that it's 50-50 fault, driver versus cyclist. Most of the trips to the ER are not with a collision with a vehicle. Most of these are intersection related. A common concern of cyclists is being hit from the rear, which is actually a very low percentage under certain conditions. If you're riding without any lights, dressed as a ninja, on a rural road with curving, there's a good chance you could get hit there. There's actually someone near traffic engineering that got hit for that very reason. Of course, a discussion of the door zone whenever you're considering what types of facilities, and then finally countermeasures. But I thought this was a very helpful section and instructive. The facilities, of course, it goes into detail on all the different types of facilities that you can put in, gives nuances as how to do them, but major roadways should certainly be considering bike lanes or shoulders. Shared lanes, marked shared lanes. There's some details on things you can do as far as shoulder bypass and actually application of the rumble stripes. On-street parking is discussed, and back-in angle parking recommended is for visibility. Guidance on bridges, signals, freeways, roundabouts. Bike lanes, you'll find there's discussion of 4 to 7 feet, when to do it. Typically it's 5 foot. The door zone, again, providing enough width from the door zone. Sort of the trade-off when you're trying to retrofit that you have to consider the likelihood of something happening. Green colored pavement, as mentioned, currently in Ohio, Federal Highways approved it for interim use. use and experimentation. Bike lanes at roundabouts was an interesting discussion because it provides both, you know, if the cyclist is going to go through the roundabout or how to set up a roundabout if someone's going to pull off and use the sidewalk to get around. Buffered bike lanes, this picture of one down there, that actually is one I hadn't thought of, and then recently became useful when we have a project where we have to put in bike lanes on a road that has a lot of extra pavement. Now, this section I like a lot because, again, it's probably, at least in Akron, this is what we end up doing when we resurface the streets. You know, what do we consider doing? The idea of using road diets is starting to catch on, and the ability to narrow the lane to 10 to 11 feet. We started doing this in one. I like doing things that are kind of like a Swiss Army knife. You get a lot of the bang for the buck. We've actually done some applications in some areas, sort of as kind of a combination of traffic calming with providing bike ped facilities near schools, you know, in some areas to provide more buffer, but also to try to slow the traffic down. And we've done a little bit of our own experimentation with putting out radar to check and see the 85th percentile speed. We're finding a few points drop down. I haven't got all the results back. But we're looking at that. And another situation was to provide more visual cues coming around a curve that experienced a few crashes. Crashes were at 2 a.m. in the morning. I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll see if that improves things. So anyways, the retrofitting I've found was very useful in terms of combining purposes. Shared use paths, guidance, certainly the tables for horizontal curves. I think the use of a lean angle is new to this particular guide. Bollards discouraged. There's no single design speed. Of course, the ADA guidance for 5%. Bike ped bridges are covered. I think one point we wanted to bring out here was that we'll allow for a 12-foot width, 10-foot with 1-foot buffer on each side without a design exception.
That's big.
Yeah.
In terms of cost of those structures, yes. Back in angled parking was mentioned. I know we're doing some of this in our downtown area, and as a cyclist, I do ride throughout the year. Certainly appreciate this so that people see you when you're pulling out. Integrating bikes with transit's covered in the guide. I think everybody is probably getting on board with the racks on the buses, but now also looking at other solutions, including bike lockers. We just used some energy grant money to fund bike lockers at the University of Akron. Also short-term and longer-term ideas. We have, I think this is Columbus, one area near a restaurant, and then also up in Cleveland, a new bike station that's going in. And then in Akron, I know the Goodyear and Goodrich new headquarters integrated the bike storage in their new headquarters for their LEED certification. And then there's a whole section on operations and maintenance, being in traffic engineering. That's very important. It is a concern to me, you know, when we put things out there, how to maintain them and keep them in usable condition, both from debris covering up things, but also just the painting, signing, and striping. It's a manpower issue. Now to wrap up, Heather, with the